It's May 1940. World War II is underway. Western Europe has fallen to the invading Nazi war machine in weeks. Belgium gone, the Netherlands gone, France on the cusp of defeat. Now, 400,000 Allied soldiers are surrounded on a single French beach. This is Dunkirk. What was to follow was one of the most desperate and chaotic attempted evacuations in military history. The beaches of Dunkirk looked deceptively calm. From a distance, long lines of soldiers stretched for miles, as if they were waiting for a routine drill. But beneath the surface, there was no order, only exhaustion and despair. Food was gone. Many hadn't slept in days. Ammunition was nearly spent. Everyone knew the fragile perimeter around Dunkirk, held by scattered French and British rearguards, could collapse at any moment. Then came the sound that chilled the blood, the low, steady rumble of engines. German tanks from the Panzer divisions closed in. They were tearing through France with unstoppable momentum. And now, these armored columns were tightening the noose around Dunkirk. For the men stranded on the beach, every vibration underfoot felt like steel jaws snapping shut. Above the beach, the sky offered no relief. Day after day, the German Luftwaffe struck without mercy. Stuka dive bombers shrieked as they plunged, their sirens designed to terrify. Their bombs scattering men like matchsticks. Offshore, ships waiting to evacuate troops were hammered, many sinking in flames before they could reach the shore. Thick black smoke from burning oil and sinking ships spread across the horizon, turning day into a choking dusk. Still, discipline held, soldiers queued in silence, rifles hanging uselessly at their sides, their rigid order the only shield against panic. They knew their survival depended on one thing: the sea. But then, an unexpected pause. Just as the panzers were poised to smash into Dunkirk and push the Allied soldiers into the sea, Hitler issued his infamous stop order. For 2 precious days, the German armor ceased its advance. Historians still debate why. Was it Hitler's overconfidence, Goering's promise that the Luftwaffe could finish the job, or simply to rest the tanks? Whatever the reason, the decision was pivotal. This pause bought the Allies time to dig in, time to plan, and most importantly, time to call for a desperate evacuation by sea. The Royal Navy faced an impossible task. Destroyers and large transports could not get close to the beaches. The water was too shallow. Worse, those big ships were easy prey for German bombers and U-boats lurking in the English Channel. Within the first days of the evacuation, the Navy realized without help, the Allied army would be abandoned and Britain would be out of the war. In desperation, they turned to the unthinkable. The Navy Admiralty issued a call across Britain. Every civilian seaworthy vessel was to report for duty. Barges, fishing trawlers, lifeboats, yachts, even pleasure craft were commandeered. Over 800 vessels in total. These became known as the Little Ships of Dunkirk. Crewed by civilians, fishermen, dock workers, weekend sailors, these unlikely heroes crossed the dangerous waters of the Channel again and again, dodging bombs and machine gun fire to pull soldiers from the sea and ferrying them to the large Navy ships waiting offshore. Britain needed these civilian ships. Without them, Dunkirk would be a massacre. The beaches carried an air of tense waiting. The shoreline itself was pandemonium. Men waded waist deep into the icy seawater, abandoning their rifles, boots, and helmets just to stay afloat. With packs dragging them under, many drowned before they could reach the rescue craft. The scene was surreal. Lines of men stretched into the water. Lifeboats capsized under too much weight. Soldiers clung to floating debris as bombs exploded in the sea around them. Every movement brought a split-second choice. The man beside you could slip, his grip dragging at your arm. Do you stop, risking both your lives under machine gun fire and exploding bombs, or keep moving toward the boat before another burst cuts the water in front of you? Instinct, not orders, decided it. And yet slowly men were lifted from the beaches. Destroyers anchored offshore took hundreds at a time. Civilian craft ferried soldiers back and forth in endless shuttles. Against all odds, the evacuation was underway. Above it all, another war was playing out to determine Dunkirk's fate. Britain's Royal Air Force flew mission after mission to shield the land and sea evacuation below, engaging the German Luftwaffe in brutal dogfights. For soldiers on the beach, it was hard to see. Many cursed the RAF, believing they weren't there. But the truth was different. RAF Spitfires and Hurricanes met German bombers before they reached the French coast, fighting invisible battles high above the English Channel. British pilots flew to the limits of their endurance, sometimes 4 or 5 sorties a day. They had minutes of fuel to spare when they landed. Losses were heavy. Over 100 fighters and 80 pilots were lost during those frantic days. But their sacrifice was decisive. Every bomber turned back, bought another few minutes for ships to load up the stranded soldiers. Every Stuka shot down was another column of men who lived to fight another day. The RAF's shield was fighting desperately to prevent the obliteration of Dunkirk. One pilot, Alan Deere, later recalled the chaos: tracer fire crisscrossing the skies, engines screaming, aircraft exploding in midair. The skies above Dunkirk were as deadly as the beaches below. The combined actions of the remaining land forces, the civilian and Navy ships, and the aircraft above helped to achieve the impossible. From May 26th to June 4th, 1940, after 9 days of relentless evacuation, the last ships departed. In total, around 338,000 troops, British, French, and Belgian, escaped the trap. It was a staggering number, far beyond the initial hope of 30,000. But the cost was equally staggering. Over 80,000 Allied troops were captured, marched into German camps. Thousands more died in the surf or went down with the ships that never made it back. The British left behind nearly all their heavy equipment: tanks, trucks, artillery, and ammunition. The army that returned was alive, but virtually disarmed. Britain stood exposed, awaiting invasion. Winston Churchill addressed Parliament. He delivered the famous warning: wars are not won by evacuations. And yet Dunkirk was more than just an escape. It preserved the core of Britain's army. It bought time. It kept hope alive. Out of that survival came the spirit that would define the next 5 years: the Dunkirk spirit. Ordinary civilians standing shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, doing the impossible together. That spirit fed into Churchill's defiant speech: "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall never surrender." Dunkirk was no victory. It was a retreat, costly and chaotic, but it was also a turning point. Without it, Britain might have sued for peace. Instead, the nation held on, rearmed, and eventually was the launch pad for D-Day 4 years later. For those who survived, Dunkirk was seared into their memory. The endless lines on the beaches, the roar of the Stukas, the miracle of the little ships. For Britain, it became legend, proof that even in the darkest hour, survival is enough to keep fighting another day. And that is why Dunkirk still matters. It wasn't about winning. It was about refusing to give up. If you want more stories from history's most desperate battles, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications.